Have you ever felt uncomfortable about something to do with your health? In this video, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the first part of my stem cell treatment and how little things in the medical world can make such a huge difference. Hi everyone, my name's Fern Lulham. I'm a motivational speaker, and on this channel I give you practical strategies and tips about how to improve your mental and emotional health in any situation. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Today I want to do a bit of a story time about the first part of my two-part stem cell procedure. I believe that there are some important lessons that we can take away and learn from this, and particularly when we're in a medical situation, it's important to talk about these things and the underlying emotions that crop up, so that if you ever experience it or have in the past, it's something you'll be able to recognize and relate to. Those of you who have watched the channel for a while will know that I am registered blind, and one of the things that comes along with my condition is the fact that my corneas, or the surface of my eye, is very hard to see through. The surface of your eye is kind of the window out to the rest of the world. One of the things I firstly want to commend my consultant for is explaining things in terms that I can understand. I think this is a huge deal in the medical industry. Doctors will often talk about things that make sense to them in jargon that they know what it means, but their patients very often don't. And they also don't feel that they can ask questions about it in case they look stupid or in case their doctors think that they're just wasting their time. We all know how busy it is in those waiting rooms, and you feel like you don't want to take up too much of their time. However, my consultant, Mr. Hamada, always encourages me to ask questions, and he will take the time to answer them and to make me feel like I've got a good understanding of it so that I can process it in my mind when I go home and whenever I think about it later. It's one of those things that plays around and around in our minds, and it's something we need good clarification on if we can be confident in knowing what the procedure is all about. The way that my consultant has always described it to me is that our corneas are like having cling film or saran wrap around our eyes. When the surface is smooth and the film is clear, we can see through easily. However, if it's all scrunched up and crinkled, we're going to find it much harder to see through that film, to see through that transparent layer that's supposed to be the surface of our eyes. Now, for most people who don't have the kinds of conditions that I have, they have healthy cells on the front of their eyes. They have cells that are forever regenerating and producing more and more healthy cells. My cells are unhealthy cells, and they have no way of regenerating and getting better by themselves. Hence, that's why I'm having this operation. The amazing thing about stem cell procedures is that scientists have now found a way that you can actually donate your own cells from a different part of your body, put them into your eye, and they change identity to become eye cells. I know how magical and mysterious that sounds, but it's real life, and that is exciting. Therefore, I'm now halfway through this two-part procedure. The first part was to take stem cells from my mouth, take them to the lab, cultivate them, and then in the second part, they will place them into my eye. I arrived quite early at the hospital, not really knowing what to expect. Even when things have been explained really, really well to you, you still don't quite know what you're in for or how scary or how painful things are going to be. I was worried that I wouldn't be able to talk or eat, which are two of my favourite things in the world, so I was a little bit panicked. For me, I'm always on edge when I'm in these situations. I always feel that bit more sensitive about being different, or thinking, why do I have to go through these things when other people don't? I remember saying to my mum, I should just be going about my day now. I shouldn't have to be worrying about these things, because most people just have eyes that they can see through anyway. Their corneas are fine. They don't have to have this amazing stem cell treatment. As amazing as it is, they still don't have to worry about it. That's a negative attitude that I really try hard not to have and not to carry with me through my life, because I want start to be grateful for the fact that there are these procedures in place that I can now take advantage of. Not so long ago, you wouldn't be able to have this chance. You just have to get on with it and your sight would probably just gradually deteriorate and there was nothing you could do. Now, at least I have the possibility of trying, and I am so thankful for that. Thankful for all the hard work that's gone into the research and the development of this treatment and having doctors that are qualified to perform these procedures. It isn't something that I take for granted. However, sometimes when you're sitting there in that waiting room, you start to feel different. You start to feel that doubt of disability creeping in. You know that you're not just like everyone else because everyone else doesn't have to do these things. 99% of my life, I'm lucky enough to be able to live a completely normal life. I'm able to go out and do things, spend time with people, and pretty much join in with anything I want to join in with. But these situations can bring you skidding back down to earth. They can highlight that there is something in your life that you have to deal with where other people don't even have to question it or worry about it. So I'm not gonna lie to you, I felt quite sorry for myself sitting in that waiting room. And I think that's okay. We can all have those moments, as I always say, where we do feel sorry for ourselves, where we don't feel positive and happy and bright about everything because everything hits home and it's emotionally difficult. Although I was also looking around the waiting room and seeing so many other people with different conditions, young children that had been brought in that had had operations before countless times. And I realised that actually I was lucky to be in the position that I'm in because these people are having to deal with things that I don't have to worry about. These people have conditions, or their children have conditions, that make it even harder in life for them than I experience. These are all things to take into account. I honestly believe that when you go in to have a medical procedure, even though it's a physical thing, your emotions very much take hold and they're on high alert. You become very sensitive, quite fragile and quite vulnerable to things, far more so than you do on a day-to-day basis. As you'll know if you've ever had surgery or some kind of operation in the past, the first part is to go in and to see the nurse and to get all prepped and ready. So there was various consent forms that I had to sign, I had to be weighed, I had to have my gown put on me and all of that good stuff. I even had to have a bold black arrow drawn on my mouth in felt tip pen, which my consultant found pretty hilarious afterwards because that's usually used if, for example, one of your eyes is being operated on and they need it to make sure they're doing it to the right side. My consultant said to me, "You've only got one mouth." I'm not sure what they were going on there. But once again, the nurses were so friendly. They'd seen me before and they knew me because I've had many operations and procedures done at the Queen Victoria Hospital in the past. And the way that they were chatting to me, making me feel welcome, making me feel like an old friend, it made me relax. It made my emotions, which, like I said, were on very high alert, I was ready to burst into tears at any moment. It made me feel more comfortable. It calmed me down. It made me feel less like this was some huge, scary thing that I was anticipating and just kept me grounded in a more realistic way. I think sometimes the worst part of an operation is that anticipation. That moment when you're sitting there thinking about it, not really knowing what to expect, and you're building up all these worst case scenarios in your mind. It's something that's very natural and something we all do, but actually it's something that's very toxic because we're not helping ourselves when we're doing that. I was then put through to another waiting room, as I like to think of it as X Factor. It's what I call judges' houses, where we were all just sitting there. There was a few of us waiting to go in, waiting to be taken down to theatre and talking about what we were going to have done. When you're in that kind of situation, the heightened emotions that you all share at that moment can really help you bond on a deeper level with people. You start talking to them about things you wouldn't ordinarily talk to strangers about, the deepest things that you're worried about, the things that you've gone through and the way that you feel about that. It's a really special experience and it's something that stays with you long after the operation. You remember those people and you wonder how they got on and how they're doing now. Then, of course, when you're called to go down to theatre, it gets scary again, because all of that waiting has kind of made you numb to what you're actually going to do. Your anxiety suddenly peaks and you remember what you're here for. before. I had been told about this procedure that it was just like going to the dentist. I'd just have a local anaesthetic in my mouth, it would numb me, they'd take a little cutting of my cells, bish bash bosh, job's a good 'un. To be honest, that was pretty much what happened. Apart from the fact that they have to strap you in so that you don't accidentally whack the consultant with one of your arms in a moment of flailing madness. The procedure was actually quite straightforward, and being awake wasn't as bad as I thought it might be. I think the worst part of the procedure was having the anaesthetic. I had to have 2 local anaesthetics, one on either side of my lower lip on the inside. I thought it was going to be in my cheek, which is a lot less painful, by the way. If you go to the dentist and you have an injection in your cheek, it's not as bad as having it in your lip. It hurts on your lip. It's like a massive wasp stinging you that's hated you for ages and always had it in for you, and finally it's getting its revenge. The good thing is it only lasts momentarily and you just kind of need to grin and bear it, although you can't really grin with a needle in your face. But after you've got through both of them, you're set. You're numb. You can't feel a thing, or at least I couldn't feel a thing. They also had the radio playing in the theatre, which in some ways is kind of weird because you think, don't you need to concentrate? But in other ways is really calming. It keeps you again on this level of emotional security. It's normal. It's not this big, scary, scientific environment where you feel like you're being poked and prodded and like you're some animal that they're doing tests and experiments on. It's just an everyday thing keeping you in reality. And that, again, makes a huge difference in your whole medical experience. Even throughout the whole procedure, my consultant and the other nurses that were there were holding my hand, were talking to me about anything and everything, where I was from, what I did, etc., etc. It doesn't really matter what you talk about at that stage, but it's nice to talk because it keeps your mind off what is going on. My consultant made sure to give my mouth a good clean on the outside and on the inside to prep it so that there was no nasty infections or anything like that in the cells that he was taking. And then he very delicately clipped away 2 little dents in the inside of my lip. I don't know all of the ins and outs of it because I'm not a doctor, but that's about all I could tell from where I was laying at the time. Also, I have to say at this point, you feel really weird when your face is like that. Even when people are talking to you and you're trying to reply, there's either some tool stuck in your face or you're just so numb that you feel like a ventriloquist dummy, like you can't move your lips. How can you speak? I've got to say though, it was over in a heartbeat. Very efficient, very quick, and very little pain apart from the initial stabs in the face. I was slightly dazed because I think your body just has that natural reaction to undergoing somebody cutting into you or just doing something that's completely unnatural for your body to want to go through. But other than that, I was fine and I was able to walk out to recovery and sit there and not eat or drink anything because my face wouldn't have been able to hold it. But I think at that stage you're just so relieved that it's over. It's a deep breath out and you can relax. You think, okay, I'm done for today. I'll worry about next time the next time. However, I do want to stress that if you do have surgery or an operation, don't be surprised if you come home and you're overwhelmed with emotion. This is quite a natural thing to happen. You've been through something quite traumatic, something that's out of the ordinary, and something that leaves your mind and body quite confused. You have to process that. You have to give yourself time to emotionally and physically heal from that. So don't be too hard on yourself. What I would say is let that emotion out, let yourself feel whatever you're feeling, and know that it's quite normal and that you shouldn't be ashamed to feel those things. It's actually a much healthier way of coping with it than bottling up all your emotions and trying to pretend that they're not there, as with everything else in life. Once again, the nurses were very clear and concise about what I needed to do in aftercare. I had this mouthwash, which was absolutely awful to taste, but probably did something for my hygiene and not infecting my face with horrible pustules. Pustules. And again, I felt that it came down to communication. Communication is so important in the medical world to help you feeling like you're more in control of a situation, which might make you feel completely out of control. We need to be able to speak our truth in those situations, to ask whatever questions we have, to be honest about our fears. So many times I've been worried about things that I've been embarrassed about being worried about, and yet when I talk to people about them, they put my mind at ease. Don't be ashamed to ask questions which might sound silly to you. If the professionals are worth their salt, they will take the time to talk to you about those things. They will try to reassure you. And in some cases, of course, you've just got to do what you've got to do, and it's not always easy. But then I believe it all comes down to having the compassion and the empathy and the understanding of knowing that the person who actually has to do it, rather than the person who's just dishing it out, is going to feel a bit uncomfortable, is going to feel a bit nervous or a bit anxious or not really know how to process what they've just been through or what they have to go through in aftercare. We need that understanding in all of our medical professionals. I always say in everything, as you know, that your emotional and mental health is just as important as any physical side effects of things, as any practical things that you might have to go through, because that helps your recovery. If you're emotionally unstable, if you're mentally all over the place, you're going to be more stressed, and you're not going to come through it half as easily and half as safely and as healthily as you would if you felt more at ease and comfortable in your situation. So please think about that, whether you're in the situation or you may be a medical professional that's going through training or who's thinking about the way that you talk to your patients. It's something that I could talk much more about, but I just wanted to graze the surface in today's video. As always, I want to hear from you. Let me know your experiences in the medical world. How have you been made to feel emotionally and mentally? Have you been looked after? I'd like to hear the good and the bad. I'm sure there's been situations where you've had no idea what's going on, but also I want to hear situations where you've been treated really well, so that we commend the people for that, the people that are doing the right things, and that we appreciate those people and show them just how much difference the work they do is making to everyone. Leave me a comment down below with your experiences, and give this video a thumbs up if you think that we need communication and mental and emotional help with our operations and medical procedures that we're going through all the time. Of course, if you'd like to find out more about our mental and emotional health and how we can better ourselves in all situations and cope with things in a really healthy way, make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss a thing. This is what I'm passionate about, and this is what I'm always talking about, and it's something that I really want us all to share together. Thanks for watching, and enjoy your day as though you've just got a sticker telling you you've done a great job at the doctor's office. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye! In this video, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the first part of my stem cell procedure and why, how, and hopefully move forward. Those of you who have watched one of the conditions that comes along with my sight condition. Therefore, I'm now halfway through this two-part procedure. I was then put through to the next waiting room where you're